Hello and welcome to my channel about game development. In the last video, I talked about some fundamentals about programming and how to get started on installing Unity. What you are seeing right now is my editor layout setup, which might not be the same as yours, but I can always go to Windows, Layouts and choose Default. Then it should be the same as what you have on your editor. This window that is right in front of you is called the Scenes view. It is what we use when we place objects within the scenes. We can navigate around within it. Next, we have the Game view. This is what the camera sees within the scene, or in other words, it is reflecting what players see in the game. So if we dock this Game view next to the Scene view, then we manipulating the camera by changing its rotation. You can see the basic concept of it. Now, let's look at the project windows. Project window is basically a place for you to manipulate your assets for your project. My personal preference is to drag this slider at the corner here to make it into a list view, but it's up to you if you want to leave it as it is. Then we have a console windows. Console window is very useful as it will print out important information about your project, your code, etc. I usually dock it here like this. So now here I have all the setup. Let's go and create a simple cube. Unity has provided some simple access for you to get you started. If you right click in the hierarchy window, you shall see a menu like this. So I'm just going to create a simple cube by going into 3D and cube. And here you have a simple cube in your scene. On the right hand side of the editor, we have the inspector. It shows all the information about the cube. This includes its transform, mesh, and its collider component. Here is a little trick that I use on editor. I often go on top of the window, right click on its title, and go to Add tab, then Inspector. This will add a new inspector window, which I can dock it somewhere on the editor like this. And next to the title there is a little lock. If you press lock it will lock the content that you selected and will not switch to different information even if you select different things. Now I have two different inspector windows showing two different properties of two different objects. I'm going to close the second inspector window for us now as I'm not going to need it. Right click on the title of the window and select Close tab. And don't forget to unlock the other inspector. Moving on, let's delete the cube and I'll create another setup. I will create a plane. This will be placed in the center of the scene, and I will create a sphere. Then I'm going to move it up a bit. What I'm going to do is to make the sphere bouncing up and down on the plane. This will involve some physics, and whenever we make something to do with physics, we have to add a component called rigid body. So we select the sphere and go to Add Component on the Inspector panel and search for rigid body. Once it is added, Unity will treat it as an object that involves with physics, for example, gravity or react to forces, etc. Let's leave the default settings. In order to make it bounce, we have to define its physics material. It's just like telling the engine how bouncy or what other friction this material has. So on this assets folder under project panel, we right click and select physics material. I will leave its default name, or you can call it whatever you want. And in inspector windows, I'm going to make the bounciness as 1, which is the maximum. I'm going to make the frictions as 0, so the ball will not affected by any frictions. And I will drag this physics material into the material field under the collider component. This will define its physics material property. And now if I press play on the editor to simulate the result, we will have a sphere bouncing up and down. This is basic scene setup in Unity editor, and now we move on into scripting in Unity. It is a good habit to organize your assets folder, so I create a script folder that contains all the scripts that I'm going to create, and right click on this area and create new C# script, and I will name it ball behavior. Notice that there is a loading sign in the bottom right hand corner. This means Unity is loading and it's best not to touch it because it's not going to be very responsive. So now it finished loading and we can have a sneak peek of our script in the inspector window. And I will just gonna double click to open it. This will open up a IDE to edit the script, and in my case it will open up Visual Studio. You can change this default IDE if you prefer to have another one. So here's a standard template that Unity creates for you. I'm going to start from the top. At the top we have the namespace. I would like to think of it as one single namespace is a box of containing loads of documents. So it's possible when you start writing code, you will come up with a document name exactly the same as the one already created by someone else. For example, we have a box called system and it has a document called random. And Unity also has got boxes of documents, which there is a document called random too. In this case, it is unclear to tell Unity which document to use. So at the top of the script we define which box we use by typing the keyword using and then the box name. Moving on, let's look at the mono behavior. It basically telling the script is inheriting from its parents class. So in programming, you can have parents class and child class, where when we define certain things in parents class, the child class can inherit the same behavior from its parents class, or even extending those behaviors. In Unity, mono behavior has provided some useful event for us to write our code. For example, in the start event, it gets triggered once when scene is started, and in the update event, it basically gets triggers in every single frame. You can go to Unity documentation to check what are the events that mono behavior provides, or you can press Command Shift E together to open the list of available events. For Windows, it will be Ctrl Shift E together. You can check the one that you want and press OK. Visual Studio will implement them for you. For more information on the order that they get triggered, Unity has provided a useful documentation online. So I'm going to rearrange the event in the order that Unity describes. I find it is very useful when they're in order, so I know what we run first and what we run last. You can also just type in the first few letters of the event that you want, and Visual Studio will give you some suggestions for you to finish off for you, like this. I only need to type ON and it gives me a list of functions that start with those two letters. So next, I'm going to let Unity print out a small message on the console window when we start the scene. Therefore, I'm going to the start function or the event. I will use debug.log. Debug is a class that helps us to debug our game, and debug.log is going to print out whatever we want Unity to print out inside the bracket. So I'm going to put down this is start. So now when we run Unity, I should expect this message to reprint out once on the console window. Don't forget we need to attach the script to an object in a scene in order to run it. You can just drag it onto the object that you want. To remove it, you can simply click the three dots at the right hand corner and select remove component. There's also another way to add component. You can just click on add component at the end of the inspector and type in the script name. In this case, it is ball behavior. Now it is time to test the script. Press play on the top and look at the console window. And here we are. Is it the same message that we put on the script? Now you have created your first C# script in Unity. If you click on message, the console will show you more information about the message. It will also tell you which line this message is coming from. And if you double click on it, it will take you to Visual Studio and automatically go to that line. This is all for today and hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit a like on this video. I hope I can see you soon. Goodbye.